All right, home inspections. Everybody have any home inspectors they really like? Anybody want to give any kind of referrals of good home inspectors they use? Give me one.
I use B&B.
B&B? We use B&B, right?
We use B&B too.
Yeah, they're pretty good. Who you got, Gary?
I use Albert Soar, and I use Toyota Post in Northfield only for probably the last 20 years, and they've been consistently decent.
Awesome. And Al who?
Albert Soar.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, good. I've used them as well. I've used Toyota Post as well. You know, a lot of people say they give the buyers a choice of home inspectors. Does anybody do that? I'll be honest, I personally do not, but does anybody feel like they should give choice of home inspectors to their buyers?
I do. I give them 3 choices.
You do? Okay, great. Why do you do that?
Usually they ask. So
Okay.
before they ask, I have a standard form that lists attorneys, home inspectors, and termite companies and surveyors.
Awesome. So you give everything all at once, right up front.
Correct, as soon as they're out of attorney review.
Do you have them schedule the home inspection?
Yes,
Do they schedule it directly? Hey,
yes. Here, I'll come online.
They did. They did. I don't know. All right. So, I mean, I'm not saying either one is wrong. We personally order the home inspection normally through one of the people we use consistently, honestly, because we know they do a great job and they'll give us the, answer your phone quick. You have a good call there. But however, the way Kathy's doing it is actually a great idea. It takes the liability off you if you picking the home inspector. You know, the home inspector does a bad job and you picked them, probably gonna come back on you, right? Say yes.
Yes.
My cheering crowd's in the back here. We got Miss Teresa, Luis, and Olga. All right, so we are the home inspection. I personally, you can't see. Oh, you can see him. There you go. I personally do not go to home inspections. Anybody want to ask why?
Why?
To me, it's a liability. It's not a good use of your time. It's a liability for you to be there. To me, this is a time for the buyers to see the house through the eyes of the home inspector. Yeah.
Also, you mentioned a couple of months ago that now I think they're going to start making Friday.
They're gonna make it stop? Who said that? Rosalie said the real estate commission is going to make us go, maybe? Yeah.
If it's your listing.
If it's our listing. Okay. See why? Yeah. All right. But not yet. Not yet.
Might be in effect.
Yeah. Nah, she would have.
She would have told us.
Yeah. It's probably something they're talking about, though. Is Rosalie on? No, Rosalie's not on.
No, it's something they've been talking about, and she's been talking about it, but it's not in effect yet.
Awesome. Yeah.
Redfin agents are doing it. They're
To me, you know,
demanding that you go.
Redfin, the company is making them go.
The company's making them, the listing agent tell this buying agent that they have to go.
They have to go. Gotcha. I used to go to all my home inspections. The reason I went was because I thought I could save the deal. I could minimize, you do damage control. And honestly, that's the wrong reason to go. And it is what it is. If the heater's broken, it's broken. Somebody's got to fix it. If the roof's leaking, it's leaking. If there's a pipe leaking, it's leaking. In fact, I'd rather them find all that out without me being there, and then I can just get a report negotiated for them. The reasons I say it's a liability, to me, it's a liability. 2, it's not a good use of your time. And it's 2 hours, hour and a half, 2 hours, sometimes 3 hours if it's a big house. And what I've found is, and tell me if anybody's seen different, by me not going and I just get the report, I actually have an easier time negotiating with the buyers, the repair list, than when I was going. Anybody seen anything to that effect or opposite?
As a listing agent. I mean,
As the buying agent, no, as a buying agent. As a buying agent, you know, a lot of times the buyers do ask for some small, silly stuff, right? Do you agree? So I've noticed that I'm able to get them to stick to the facts or stick to the things that fall into the home inspection, non-cosmetic items.
what's on the contract?
Exactly. What's on the contract? Electrical, plumbing, structure, safety, hazard, things like that. And I don't have as much of a problem where and to me, it's because I'm detached from it. I didn't see everything that they saw. I didn't hear everything they heard. I just got what's on the paper. Follow?
Yes.
Cool. Who goes? How many people go to their home inspection? You go to your buyer's home inspection?
I went to one now, but I never had one in years.
You haven't gone in years, yeah.
So this-
Yeah.
I only went when my buyer asked. It was
When they asked.
yeah, it was a first time home buyer. They were like very, like nervous about it. So
Right.
they asked me to go. So that's
Gotcha.
when I went with them.
Gotcha. Just curious. Right. It's not a good use of your time. Going back to my notes, liability, and because what you don't want to do is you do not want to try and unless it's so blatant that the home inspector is wrong, you do not want to contradict the home inspector. The home inspector is the expert in that field. They're there to do the inspection. The last thing you want to do is try to tell your buyer that the home inspector is not exactly right, or it could be wrong, or some sort of disagreement, because now you're creating doubt in the eyes of the buyer, and now you could void the whole freaking. Exactly, and there's the liability, right? Because all I can see what's on the paper. Once you receive the home inspection, I send the report to the listing agent right away. Sometimes before we even look at it. We usually put on there, I'll be in contact as a follow-up in the next day or two. The reason I do that, I want to send the whole report. Number one, that keeps you in contract, is says you have to deliver the report within the next amount of days. Usually our home inspection clauses on the state contract is 14 days unless you write in differently, right? Does anybody write in less? 14 days? Right.
Unless it's a
Give yourself
bank
time.
loan, but
Right.
it's 14 days.
Unless it's a bank owned, then you got to read the addendum. Sometimes it's 0 days, sometimes 5 days. But I want to send it to them right away so they have the whole report. And I do it kind of like for a psychological, because I'm showing them everything wrong. And I leave them sit for maybe a day or two, and then we can go back and ask for the things we want to ask for. But I want them to kind of build up that curiosity to see what I'm going to ask for. How much is the buyer going to ask for? And that gives you time to go over it with the buyer, see what they want to ask for, and I try to stick to the main things: electrical, plumbing, safety, mold, things like that, plumbing, structure, roof. Windows are always a gray area. They're not really structural. Right, we're a safety issue. However, you get a lot of broken seals. Home inspectors say, they got to be replaced. The seals are broken. I'm sure those of you that have been in real estate for a while have had that challenge before. And windows can get expensive. If you have 15 windows with broken seals, you're talking about, $3,000 to $5,000, depending on the windows they are.
Shawn, can I interject for a moment, please?
Sure.
You talk about sending the home inspection report to the selling agent.
Right.
I always ask my buyer permission to share it before I send it off.
Say that one more time.
I always ask the buyer for permission to
Oh.
share that document before I send it.
Sure.
I was always
Why do
told that that document belongs to the buyer.
Yes,
So I always ask first, just throwing that out there.
that's a great point.
Once again, liability,
Exactly. If you had like I've had this situation before, if you're the listing agent on the property, you get a home inspection report, that buyer walks away. Now you have that report. Can you share it with everybody?
No,
Should you share it with everybody?
no.
So if you end up with a home inspection report on a listing of yours that wasn't your buyer's, should you share it with the next?
No, not unless you have written permission from the former buyer that you can do that.
Correct.
Exactly. Because they paid for it. They own it, right?
Right.
They own it. We're the keeper of documents. Vanessa at the board told me the other day, we're the keeper of documents, not the owner of documents. Right?
And I agree with you, Shawn, when you get it to forward it, the whole thing over to the other agent right away and say, please share with your seller right away. I'm going to digest this and go over this and be back in touch with you in a few days. Because that just takes the edge off and gives them time to diffuse the situation a little bit and start saying, yeah, I do have to fix this. And it puts you way ahead of schedule, getting things resolved faster. I agree with you 100%.
I like the way you worded it. Give them time to diffuse it, and because the big thing is they're going to know what they're going to ask for. Well, they're going to get it either way. Right.
I used to
You mean
do that.
they'll
Now-
respond
now
before you even
I
ask?
used to send the whole thing
Mhm.
and show everything. Now I'm sending just the pages of the items that I want.
Right.
So it's been on those pages, keep the rest.
Listen, there's no right or wrong way to do that part of it. It's something that I do. I just send the whole thing. Because to me, like Gary said, you gotta ask permission for your buyer, of course, and per the contract, they're gonna wanna do it, but it gives them time to look at it before and I let them know that we're gonna be, in touch in the next day or two to request a list, or sometimes just put, we'll be in touch. However, if the heater's not working and it's not an as-is deal, a good listing agent is gonna start preparing their seller, hey, listen, you're gonna have to do something here. Now, there might be, I don't know, something small, but a structure, there's a junction box in the crawl space where the wires are sticking out of. Something that falls under the home inspection, not the end of the world. They're going to be curious whether or not you're going to ask for that. But to me, it kind of gives them time to start that ball rolling with the seller. And then, I'll go to the next part in a second. Yeah, you're going to say something. Oh, I'm sorry.
Right now, I'm doing a deal, the heater's over 30 years old, they brought in an HVAC guy, he said, he's working, time for inspection.
Right.
So now I'm battling with the listing agent to get a home warranty. I was like, heater for at least a year, so they want the buyer to move in the next day.
Gotcha.
So how will you address that?
So how old was the heater?
Over 30 years old.
It was 30 years old. And the home inspector noted it was working.
It was
But-
working, but it needed maintenance.
Maintenance.
But it was at the end of its life. That's
Right.
what it was. They brought an HVAC guy out. He cleaned it, documented everything he did to it, that it's working at this time,
Right.
which means that's ago.
Right.
So I'm fighting over getting a warranty for the buyer for at least a year. So they don't move in the next day, that can die, but they don't want to replace it.
Right. Right. Because it is working
How will you address
the exact same way.
it?
That's well. If I was working for the buyer, I've tried to get a new heater. However, under the conditions maintenance section of the contract, it says exactly that any item in a household needs to be working to its age. So if the heater is 30 years old and it heats and cools to the temperature it needs to heat and cool to, but it makes a crank, 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 crank sound, then it's working to its age. It just makes it sounds old and rusty. However, if I can get a new heater, I'll try to get a new heater. If I can't, I've gotten home warranties. That's a great fix for a lot of things. And I think it's underutilized. For $500, you can get like almost a bumper to bumper warranty. Doesn't cover everything, but the major stuff. I mean, it includes some roof leaks, plumbing leaks, electrical leaks, heating and air condition issues, appliances, and just like you said, at least for 1 year, your buyer won't have to shell out, $5,000. Yeah, that's actually, you've got a copy of it there. $5,000. They got to shell out $100 for a deductible. But if you can see that, but they're in the back of the training room. They're very inexpensive. You can even negotiate them up front or during the home inspection. Actually, that was in my notes of the warranties. That's good. No, I'm glad you brought it up because I think it's something that's far underutilized. As a seller's agent, even, if they're asking for something that might not need to be replaced now, but needs to be replaced in the future, a lot of times you can use that warranty, offer it to the buyer as part of the negotiating of the home inspection to get away with, not having to replace a heater when it works fine. Because you never know. That heater might break in 10 seconds or 10 years. I've literally seen 40-year-old heaters, and we've seen some that are 18 years old and literally on their last leg.
One thing I do is I remind the buyers when they're signing the contract that it's electrical, mechanical, structural, major elements of the house that are these and not cosmetics, and reminding them they're buying a used property, not a brand new house, and you're going to have certain things with wear and tear and age that are relevant, and some inspectors they have to cover their butts and word things in a certain way because they don't want to get sued. I said, you got to keep that in mind. And I'll remind them again the day of the home inspection before it happens too, the same thing in a nice way. And that seems to diffuse it a little bit sometimes. Not always, but sometimes.
Exactly. I like what you said, and actually I missed that one of my notes. I like to choose home inspectors that are 100% thorough. They do not miss a thing, because you're there, I'm sure you'd agree, you're there to help. If I have a home inspector find anything and everything that's wrong with the house, right? I mean, that's the whole point of it. However,
The way they word their summary, if they look at the glass half full instead of half empty all the time, it makes a huge difference.
huge difference. The two well, not anymore, I don't use Ed Regazi from Peace of Mind. To me, Ed Regazi and Chris Stankus, as far as finding things wrong with the property, were pretty much, apples to apples in my eyes. Everything that one would find, the other would find. The difference to me was exactly like you said, Gary. Chris
Wants a whole
explain
new
things
house.
like the sky is falling, literally. I mean, he literally told one of my clients that the ceiling in the living room is probably going to fall on their heads because they didn't put screws down the middle of the sheets of sheetrock. They only put them on the outside. Now, listen to what I just said. It's something that can be fixed with screws. Where Ed would tell you what could happen, however, he would tell you how it could be fixed. People say, home inspectors will say there's a cracked floor joist. There's 3 cracked floor joists in a crawl space. They're cracked floor joists. Technically, they're a structural issue. However, they're fixed with a $25 or $30 piece of wood, and they get a licensed contractor in there to sister it together. You know what I mean? So it's exactly like you said. It's the way to explain it. You want somebody that's 100% thorough, however, that has a glass half full way of explaining things. Give them options on how to fix things if for some reason the seller won't fix it themselves or fix it for them, or this way your buyer knows how the seller should be fixing it. Olga just had one, literally, they called for flashing around a plumbing stack on a roof. And the seller or seller's contract, I don't know which one, got a lasagna plan, a lasagna pan, a disposable lasagna pan, flattened it, cut a circle out, put it over top, and then tarred it on the roof. It was the funniest thing. And they fought for this repair, to keep this repair. And I tell the agent, please go up, get the lasagna pan off the roof, hire a contractor, and friggin' flash it, all right? Especially right now, one of my notes at the end here is, and I'm jumping ahead, but when the home inspection items are repaired by a seller, have the home inspector or a licensed contractor go back to the property, spend the $50 or $100, or some of them will do it for no charge, to check those repairs. Because a lot of the repairs you're going to call for, the major repairs, are in a crawl space or an attic. And I know we're not crawling around the crawl space. The buyer's probably not crawling around the crawl space. And there's things that we might not see that should have been done behind a wall, behind a light switch, something. It's worth the money. I can't tell you how many times we went to closing, did a walkthrough. After closing, a week later, the buyer calls me up and says, hey, the 5 junction boxes in the crawl space they're supposed to fix were never fixed. And sometimes the seller doesn't even know. The contractor might have took the money and forgot to do it. So pay the home inspector to go back and check to make sure they were done correctly. Exactly. So you want to find a home inspector that, explains these things thoroughly. And B&B, Pillar to Post, Al, Ed Regazi, all great at what they do.
So that might be a conversation to have. And hire
Sure. Oh yeah, and ask them if they charge anything, or if so, how much. I've never heard more than 100. Usually $100 to re-inspect, right?
The gas is
125. Yeah, it's worth the money. I mean, figure a heater alone is $2,500. The air conditioner is $2,500. If that's broken, they save themselves $4,500 by spending $500. So we have the home inspection list. We prepare the report. We send them the report. We go over with our buyer. When I'm going over with the buyer, we try to stick to the main issues, non-cosmetic, what's in the contract. If the buyer says to me, hey, I want these 12 items fixed, do we ask for 12 items or do we ask for 15? Right? I always ask for more. Anytime I'm negotiating anything, I always ask for more. If they want the 12 items, I'll throw in another 3. I ask for 15 items. Obviously, if we get all 15, you're the hero, right? You've negotiated very well for your buyer. And if you only get the 12, then you get the 12. Right. You're still a hero because you got what's done. And usually what I'll do is the agent will call up and say, hey, listen, we're not doing these 15 items. We're only gonna do this, this, and this. Then but you know which 12 your buyer really wanted. So you can go over that list with the listing agent and tell them, listen, well, if you're gonna only do certain amount of items, do these items. These are the ones my buyers I think is more concerned about compared to the other 3. You guys follow? Ask for more, get more, or get less, you still win, right? As far as a credit, it's the same thing. You know, sometimes the sellers will just offer a credit. They don't want to do repairs, you know, and if the buyer is requesting a credit instead of doing the repairs, same thing. Buyer wants $3,000, I'm asking for $5,000. If you get $5,000, you're really good. Buyer, you're the hero, should give you a referral. And if they only get 3, you're ahead of the game. Follow? Everybody agree?
Yes.
You guys do anything like that?
If it's FHA, you can't.
Yeah, the credit?
Yeah.
Well, there's a way. Actually, I'm gonna go over how you can do a credit.
Oh, okay.
Uh, Louis made a good point. You know, if you're doing a credit, a lot of these lenders, they don't want to, you know, you can't do credits. You can't, just to make it clear, you're not supposed to give money in any form outside of what's on the HUD, ALTA, or CD. I'm not going to say it never happens, but I'm telling you legally, the seller should not be giving the buyer a check that the lender is unaware of. So the correct ways to do a credit, especially if you're doing any kind of federally insured loans, FHA, VA, USDA, heck, even conventional is tough nowadays, is if you're getting the seller to give you a $5,000 credit, it should be done in the form of like seller concession. You know, if they're not getting seller concession or they're not getting the whole seller concession, increase the seller concession from the seller, you can do that. Again, all this has to go through the lender. They have to redo some documents. The seller could pay, for example, I have a lot of times the big item is a heater. So the seller will do, you know, these 5 items, but the buyer wants a heater as well, and credit for that. We can actually have the seller pay the buyer's heating contractor on the HUD, you know, or the ALTA or CD. So if it's $5,000 to the HVAC guy, the seller pays it on their side of the sheet. And then the check will go right from the title company right to the buyer's contractor. Follow? On the seller side. And the other way is to lower the sales price. Is just to lower the sales price. There was yeah, that's it. Yeah, is to lower the sales price. You used to be able to cut cheap checks sometimes if the buyer was getting money back or the seller was getting money back, but you can't do that anymore. As far as a credit, as far as asking for repairs, any questions on that? Anything you want to interject or add?
I think after the application has been put in for the loan on FHA,
Right.
if you try to do a credit, they're going to question why the
Yeah.
generosity of the seller and make sure the deal.
Yeah, no.
So you have to
No,
be careful, and
it has to be on the HUD or the ALTA.
Yeah,
If
one
it's going to
thing
be a
is-
credit.
if the contract says you buy it for 150,
Mhm.
a concession, put in an application, and all of a sudden they'll say, be adding a $6,000 concession.
Oh, adding concession.
But you know, because
Right.
that's gonna raise a red flag with FHA.
Yeah, I've never had that problem. I mean, as long as it's not a credit. Like if you just say, hey, the seller wants to give the buyer a $5,000 credit for repairs, I don't even think they'll allow it, to be honest.
They won't allow you to
Um,
repairs on it.
But you're
If you put
saying as a
repairs on
seller
it, then
concession,
it's
it'll
red
raise
flag.
red flags. Have you had that problem before? Or? Really?
Yeah, you can't do repairs of what it's going for. You can't say a roof or.
No,
Yes,
no,
down
no.
there.
He's saying seller
Just
concession.
asking why you be so kind to me.
Oh, yeah, well, I mean, I've had it happen where they needed it because, you know, the debt to income ratios didn't work out, so the seller had to take $5,000 less if the deal didn't work. I'm not saying they won't ask questions, but they shouldn't have a
It
problem
would
getting
be
a
a
seller
problem if
concession.
it's more than 3.5% concession, right?
Oh,
Is
yeah,
that above the allowed amount?
right? Yeah.
Right.
Up to
What were you guys saying? Up to 6%? Was it over 6%?
All right, so Those are the legitimate ways you can do it. Not to say nobody asks any questions. I've never had any issues making this seller concession credit. All right, when you have a repair that is electrical, plumbing, heating, structural, mold, safety item, you should, as the buyer's agent, you should be asking the seller to do it with a licensed contractor, a certified contractor. Just to let everybody know, there is no license to treat mold. You get a general contractor's license, and then you can get certifications that you're certified in treating X kind of mold, or treating or using X chemicals to treat that mold. Got it? So if anybody ever asks, hey, well, I want a licensed mold guy to come over, there is no licensed mold. There's a licensed contractor and then a certification they can get. So a lot of times these companies are really just charging double to get the certification on the little piece of paper that you give the client. And that's the reason you want them to come back and check. Because if you don't get somebody licensed, you should actually, when you ask for any structural work, heating, electrical, plumbing, roof, you should ask the listing agent to give you some sort of invoice showing that this is what they did and a description of the work. You know what I mean? So this way you can see, did they replace the floor joist? Did they sister the floor joist? Did they re-support the main joist, or whatever they're doing? When they treat for mold, what did they spray? Did they spray some bleach underneath their sink? Or did they get, Gills 129er, you know what I mean? Some weird number that's really strong stuff. But that's what you want to see. Is this way you know exactly what they did, and you can give it to the home inspector when they come re-inspect, so they can see if it was done the correct way. Any questions on that? Or is it? Yeah. Oh, the credit. The credit. I was gonna say the credit. I have another item down here. Just make sure when you're asking for credits, you're asking for more than what's needed, especially right now. So that's what I wanted to go over. Is like kind of in the moment right now. Is everybody busy? Yeah. Is you think the market's busier than it was 9 months ago? Yeah. Does everybody know we're in a seller's market? Yeah. So seller's market's under 3 months of inventory. And right now, as you go more into the seller's market, when we get down to 2 months inventory, which I think we might get there, you will have instances where the seller will say, we're taking an offer completely as is. Literally, they don't want a home inspector. They don't want a home inspection. Back in 05, it got actually very common that they would actually ask for no home inspection. So if nothing else, they're going to ask, they're selling it as is. When I say as is, they're not going to do anything. If they have 10 offers and one of them says 100% we are asking for nothing, we are not canceling for the home inspection, it's not going to be uncommon. So I would not suggest a first-time home buyer buying a house without a home inspection. I'm just telling you that if you hear that from the listing agent, don't be surprised. It is something that's happening more and more. You just have one like that.
I have one right now.
With no
No
inspection.
inspection. Yeah.
We have the
I
listing.
have two. I have two.
We have the
actually.
listing.
I have the listing on one, and the other
Right.
one I have the buyer.
And the one on the listing, when you have the listing, the buyer's agent just said, well, do no home inspection?
I did highest and the best.
Mhm.
They give us full asking, no concession, and no inspection contingency. As is.
No
and
inspection
then-
contingent.
Yeah, and
Gotcha.
as is, they're not going to do an inspection, and they're going to get the certification, the CO and all that.
They're not doing a home inspection?
No.
Wow, all right.
Yeah.
Well, there you go.
It's in Pennsauken. So.
The Pennsauken,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's not
Well, yeah, and they're probably a month or two supply. That's what it
yeah,
is.
It's bad.
It's crazy, yeah. It's just be ready for that. It's kind of the market of the moment. Again, I'm not saying don't do a home inspection. Always try to do a home inspection. The best thing I'd say is maybe you can take the contingency out, or let them know that you will not ask for any repairs if you're trying to be competitive.
But can you still cancel the deal though?
If you leave the contingency in there, yeah. You
But
leave the
you
home
don't
inspection
take it out.
contingency, you can word it so that, if the contract is contingent upon the home inspection clause. However, the buyer will ask the seller for 0 repairs. So at least
But
you
I
have the
can
right
still
to
cancel
cancel.
it if like the foundation's bad. I'm not gonna
Right.
ask them for 40,000, but can I at least just get out of the
Yes.
deal?
As long as you leave it, I would leave it worded the way it is, but if you want to add something, like if you're trying to do like they did, like we're not going to ask for any repairs, just add that in there.
Oh, so no
Right.
repairs.
But you're going to see some where they're just going to completely cross out the home inspection
That's a
clause.
different topic. Like,
Yeah,
don't
they
have
just
any-
crossed it out.
So if they cross
Yeah.
it out, can I still do the home inspection?
No.
As the buyer, you could, I guess, but it's not contingent upon it.
So I
no
can't
matter
cancel
what,
it. I can do
right.
the inspection, but I cannot cancel the deal because of that.
Yes. Yes, unless the seller writes in there like no inspections. EJ does sometimes.
For no inspection, and it also they say like, you put like, they're not gonna perform any home inspection, you cross it out, you put not gonna perform any home inspection, and buyer is responsible for this.
Right.
So the buyer is buying the house without, doing an inspection on it. So
Gotcha.
they're not even gonna do one, like,
They're not even doing one,
they're
right.
not allowed to it because
Right.
of putting the contract, so they can't.
Yeah, we have a banco and an REO guy that does that. He doesn't allow any inspections on his properties, none. I think that's a little crazy, but that's what he does. And so I'm just saying, don't be surprised when that day comes, because I think it's already here. Any questions? I think that's about all I got. Guys ever have any? What's that?
Shawn, have you heard anything about, there were certain people in the last couple of years that were putting in the MOS in the disclosures part that if you use Chris Stankus, you're not allowed to have a home inspection done on my house by him. Are sellers allowed to do something like that legally without getting in trouble, or?
Sellers are allowed to do that, yes. It has to be put in the agent remarks, and it has to be worded that the seller is not allowing a certain home inspector or vendor into their
Is that
property.
legal?
It is legal.
So
It is legal, okay.
Well, according to the Board of Realtors, according to Vanessa and Board Counsel, it is legal for the sellers to do that. Agents, it is
So you
illegal.
can't discriminate who comes through your house, but you can discriminate home inspectors?
The
That's-
vendor, yeah.
Vendor.
Or a mortgage, well, I mean, a termite guy, I guess.
It's gonna come down to, I don't want Green Tree to be my the mortgage rate for your home.
Oh, we
The
can- we can-
sellers could do anything they
Sellers
want,
can
really.
turn it down.
Probably have a signed document in the documents.
They should sign something. Yeah, if anybody's gonna do that, I would have the seller sign something.
Yeah, put it in the file and staple it in there real good and make it permanent. Yeah, for sure.
Exactly. This way they don't blame you as the real estate agent
Right.
for doing that. You know what I mean?
Shawn,
But
can
it
you
should
put-
not be in public remarks.
Could you put it on the listing agreement in the comment section?
Yeah, you could, right, at the very bottom.
Yeah,
you
and
can
have
write
them
it there.
sign it there?
Sure. Sure. I've heard this a few times about Chris. I've seen it on a couple listings. And that's why I called the board at council. Chris is very good at what he does. I used him for many, many years. He gets very busy, and I think he has a different way of explaining it than B&B or Ed Regazzi. He has kind of the worst case scenario explanation, which, some could argue that buyer may want to hear the worst case scenario. However, unfortunately, you got the name of the deal killer.
Yep.
That's Chris the deal killer. So it's just,
Because he
I think he does
estimates
a
the
great job.
repairs which is not true.
right. He gives you a value of what the estimate is, right? Right. Like he's gone and he's given numbers of what it could cost to do things, worst case scenarios on costs, where some agents, some sellers don't like that. Nobody wants to see their deal die. What I'll tell you is he's very good at his inspections. He's not going to find things that aren't wrong and make them wrong. However, he is going to tell them what at all possibly could happen and what it's going to cost. Cool. Good question, Gary.
One other quick question, doesn't have to do with home inspections, but are we taking checks now for Atlantic Shore Title and no problem putting in an escrow under that name, or has to be surety title?
We could always take Atlantic Shore Title checks. Because we kind of merged while we were down employees, it was easier just to write them out to surety. If you're writing them out to surety already, keep it that way until I get the first employee downstairs, just for convenience purposes, really.
Well, I got one I just took. I told him to make it the Atlantic Shore Title deal. I
That's
just
fine.
signed.
We still have our bank accounts, we still have our company name, everything's still technically open. We just merged the employees and it, you know, Surety and Atlantic Shore Title and all of Surety's parent or sister companies or JVs are down about 40% in employees. And now add to that, that business is exploding. It's a little messy. So I'll apologize for service issues, but you can write it the Atlantic Shore Title. We can cash it, no problem. And we are currently hiring for Atlantic Shore Title, 2 processors and a closer. And as soon as we start to get 1 to 2 employees, we will open downstairs in the downstairs space at KW.
Should I give the check to?
You can leave it upstairs at the desk in the book, and then Laura will call somebody to come pick it up. Or in your travels, if you're driving by Surety, you can drop it off.
No problem. All right.
Cool, man. Thanks, Gary.
All right.
Thank you, everybody. If you have any more questions, I'm all done.
You have
Oh,
a
feel
chat
free
over
to
there
call.
of 8. Is there
Oh,
anything
is there?
we need
I'm sorry.
to,
I apologize. Hold on. I didn't see that. Thanks. You're the best. Hi. Did everyone just freeze? No. You also get paid $50 if you choose. Yes, that's a great point. If you do get, you get a $50 if you buy a home. If your client gets a home inspection or somebody's client gets a home warranty from America's Preferred Home Warranty, the agent, you get $50 from America's Home Warranty. Does everyone use America's Home Warranty? Several people in our office use them. Had great feedback. Thank you, this person. Yeah, we've used them several times. They're great. Andrew is the rep, right?
Yes.
Yeah, Andrew. I forget his last name. He's been here. He's done lunches for us and stuff before. He's the rep. Yeah, and the brochure I think is in the back, right? Well, there's one right here in the training room if you need it. And if you, I have Andrew's contact info. If you need it, just text me. I'll send you his contact info. Cool.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, guys. Thank you, guys. See you guys. See you, Dustin, Deborah, Gary, Mira,
See ya.
Kendrick, Kelly. See you, Grace.
See you guys.
Bye-bye.
Shawn, I have one more question. I'm sorry.
Yeah, good.
I was late. So I'm taking the listing soon, pretty much tomorrow. So I can write in the listing agreement as is and no inspection contingency, right?
You can. You can.
All
If you think that's making at the price and condition for the home or the property, if you think that still makes it a competitive, listing, then yeah, you can.
It's just they're doing repairs, small repairs. They're fixing the changing furnace, but they're afraid that the buyer will be, stingy and ask for God knows what else. So that's why they ask me if I can do as is.
Right, you can.
Right.
I mean, understand every contract is as is. In the home inspection clause of every contract, it says this property is being sold as is. It's up to the seller if they want to agree to make any repairs. They could say, I don't want to make any repairs. The reason I tell you that is because once you put in the remarks of something that is 100% as is, some buyers will get very nervous. They'll get very nervous, and they might
Right.
just choose not to show the house. That's
why
why
I told them, because long time ago, as is was a foreclosure or God knows.
Mm-hmm. Right. I mean,
Right.
you can not put as is on the listing in the MLS, and technically the home inspection clause will say it's as is. The seller could just say, no, I'm not making repairs. Now, if the property needs work, you know what I mean, and you don't want to do it, and put as is. But if overall it's in good shape, you might
Okay.
weed out a lot of your buyers without even knowing. As is, to me, as is causes about 20-30% of your buyers not to look at the property.
Exactly, red flag right
Yeah.
away.
So just
All
something
right,
to keep in
thank
mind.
you.
You got it.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
No problem.